Hi guys, in today's session, we are going to understand Spring Batch. What is this Spring Batch? Why we need to go with this Spring Batch and how to develop one application by using Spring Batch. That is what we are going to discuss today. First, let us see the definition. Spring Batch is a lightweight, comprehensive batch framework designed to enable the development of robust batch application. So in the Spring framework, Spring Batch is one module which is used to develop batch applications. Now, the immediate question, what is batch application? The application which processes bulk of records is called as batch application. For example, let us take the use cases. In my company, there are 1 lakh employees are available. For all the 1 lakh employees, I want to send the salary on the last working day of the month. For all the employees, I want to send a payslip to their mail ID. I need to generate a payslip and I need to send that payslip to all those employees. And let's take the example of SBI Bank. Crores of people are having accounts in the SBI Bank. For all the account holders, I need to generate a monthly statement and I need to send to that mail ID of the customer. And in my company, so many employees are there. I want to send Diwali greetings to all of them or Dasara greetings to all of them. In my company, so many people purchase insurance plans. For them, I need to send monthly notices regarding their eligibility for the insurance plan. So like this, we are going to perform the operation on bulk of records. So when you want to perform such a kind of operation on the data, then Spring Batch is one of the most robust framework that is available to deal with batch operations in the project. And let me take another scenario. I have a data in the CSV file. Now I want to read the data from the CSV file and I need to store the data into database. I have data in the database. I want to store the data into some CSV file. Data is available in the CSV file. Process that data and store that data into database. And I have data in the database. I need to read the data and I need to process the data and I need to store the data into CSV file. This is another scenario where we are going to deal with batch operation. 1000 customers data is available in my CSV file. I have taken one dummy CSV, comma separated value. In this CSV file, customer details are available like ID, first name, last name, email, gender, contact number, country, date of birth. So I have 1000 customers data. I want to load this data from the CSV file to database. I want to load the data from CSV file to database. After some days, the data which is available in the database, I want to read that data and I want to store into CSV file. So like this, if you want to deal with lakhs of records, millions of records, that is called as bulk operation. That bulk operation will be implemented as a batch application. In order to implement such kind of a batch application, then we will go for Spring Batch framework. So if you want to deal with the bulk of records, then you will go for batch. Batch means bulk. I have the data in the CSV file. I want to load the data from the CSV file to my database by using batch frame. Now guys, before going to start our development of this task, let's understand Spring Batch terminology. Job launcher, job, step, item reader, item processor, item writer, and job repository. First of all, let's understand these three. Item reader. I'm having the data in the CSV file. So now when I'm going to perform the bulk operation, first of all, we need to understand what is our source. My data is available in the CSV file that I will consider as my source. Where you want to store that data? I want to store that data into database. That will be called as destination. First, you need to understand what is your source and what is your destination. CSV file is my source, database is my destination. Now what I need to do is, here I need to read the data from the source I need to do some processing on the data. Then I need to write the data to destination. In order to read the data from the source, here there is a component called item reader. In order to do some processing on the data, then there is a concept called item processor. In order to write the data to the destination, then there is a concept called item write. What is item reader? Item reader is used to read the data from the source. Item processor, which is used to process the data before writing. Once the processing is completed, to write the data to the destination, I'm going to use item writer. Okay, whatever the item reader, item processor, item writer that we are using, this complete flow is called as one step. I'm taking item reader, item processor, item writer. So all these three, whatever the work that these three components are doing, that is called as one step. So in our application, we can configure multiple steps. Every step will contain one task: item reader, item processor, item writer. So in order to execute this step, we are going to configure one job. One job can contain multiple steps. One step will contain item reader, item processor, item writer. To execute our job, we are going to use one component called job launcher. Job launcher is going to launch the job. The job is going to execute the step. The step is going to execute the task. So task means it will contain the reader, it will contain the processor, it will contain the writer. So like this, for the job launcher, we will tell to launch the job. Once the job is launched, it will execute the step. Once the step is executed, it will call my reader, my processor, and my writer. So all this information will be maintained in one component that is called job repository. So if you see this diagram, job launcher will be available. Job launcher is going to launch the job. That job is going to launch the step. That step is going to launch item reader, item processor, item writer. All that batch execution information will be maintained in the job repository. Look at this batch architecture. What is a job launcher?
Yeah, job launcher is to execute the job, whatever the job is assigned to that one.
Yes, job launcher is used to launch the job execution. What is the job? Job represents multiple steps. So what action should be performed? That will be represented by one step, right? Nothing but task. Step represents one task. So can we have multiple steps in one job?
Yes.
Right?
Every step is having item reader, item processor, and item writer.
Correct. So every step will contain a task. Task will be represented by reader, writer, processor. What is the purpose of reader?
Yeah, to read the CSV file, whatever the data.
It is used to read the data from the item reader is used to read the data from the source. Source can be file, source can be database. Here I'm showing the scenario that I will read the data from the CSV file and I can write into database. Some projects may have a reverse also. Source can be database, destination can be CSV.
file.
Are you guys getting my point?
Right.
So scenario one, I want to read the data from the CSV and I want to store into database. Some projects may have a different scenario. They already have the data in the database. They want to read it from the database. They want to write in the CSV. So source and destinations can change. Reader is used to read the data from the source. Right. Then what is item processor?
Item processor is the it's a logic.
What you that is used for transforming the data. So I have the customer data. I want to do some transformation. Okay. I have employee salary. I want to do calculation for the PF, right? Such kind of processing can be done by using item processor. What is item writer?
Send the data to destination file.
Right. It will write the data to destination. Destination can be database. Destination can be file. Destination can be anything. Then what is job repository?
This all will be
all will be connected to this.
All these things, the job execution, job steps will be maintained in the job repository. Got it. Now let's go and develop one application with a batch operation. Spring Boot with batch example. Read customers data from CSV file and write into database table. My customers data is already available. Customers.csv file is available. I want to read the data from customer's CSV, and I want to write the data into database table. Okay, first let me create my application. I will create one boot application, new Spring Starter project. I want to use the dependencies, web dependency, Lombok dependency, data JPA. I want to insert the data into table by using data JPA, and I want to communicate with a MySQL database. So I'm going for MySQL driver and batch, Spring batch dependence. Good. Click on next and click on finish. In this application, first let me keep my data. I will keep the data in the resources folder. Next one, I want to configure data source properties. I want to communicate with the MySQL database. So let me take my MySQL database properties in this project. Okay, this is properties file. I'm converting to YML file, properties to YML. In this YML, I'm configuring my data source properties. So this is my database. Database name, I'm going to use batch demo, guys. A new database I want to create to show the tables. Okay, so here if you observe, use batch demo, show tables. In this database currently tables are not available. A new schema I have created to show you what are the tables creating by our batch application. Okay, what are the tables that are created by batch application? I'm showing DDL auto update, show SQL true. I want to print that SQL queries on the console. All right. So with this, my data source properties also created. Data source properties also configured in the YML file. Customer data available in the CSV file. So let me create required classes and interfaces for that. Customer entity, I'm going to create new class, that is my entity class. I'm taking the name as a customer. I'm taking the table name as a customer info. Customer ID is one column, first name, last name, email, gender, contact number, country, and date of birth. So whatever the data that is available in the CSV file, with the same, I'm creating one entity class. That means it representing ID, first name, last name, email ID, gender, contact number, country, date of birth. If you see my CSV also, same data will be available. ID is available for that. So I created one variable with that. Then next one, first name, last name, email. You can see here, ID, first name, last name, email. Then after gender, contact number, country, date of birth. So I'm taking gender, contact number, country, date of birth. So like this, I'm taking one entity class. For this entity class, let us create one repository interface, new interface. I'm creating customer repository. Let me keep that in the repository package. This customer repository will extend the properties from JPA repository. Customer repository will extend from JPA repository. Customer, I'm taking the class entity and ID, that is a serializable. I'm taking. So I'm creating one repository interface. That repository interface is connected to entity. That entity is mapped to database table. Got it? So this is my entity class. For this entity, I created one repository interface. We are good with that. Create batch configuration class. So this is the most important part in our application, guys. Good. So what we need to do is, in the batch configuration class, we need to specify what is our job. We need to specify what is our job. We need to specify what is our step. We need to specify our item reader, our item processor, and our item writer. And this is job launcher. I will launch from my REST controller. I will create one REST controller. From the REST controller, I'm going to launch my job. That job launcher will talk to job. That job will talk to step. That step will talk to item reader, item processor, and item writer. I'm going to take a class with a name called batch config, my batch config, CSV batch config. So first of all, I need to represent this class as a configuration class. For that, I'm using one annotation @ configuration. Okay. So in this, I want to specify that batch processing will be available. Enable batch processing. That is the annotation. So if you want to perform batch processing in your application, you need to write this annotation, enable batch processing. So now first I am going to create my reader. So first you understand that the data is available in the CSV file. So to read that data, there is a predefined class available, which is called flat file reader. See here, from the batch, I'm importing that flat file reader. It has to read the data and it has to give the data in the form of customer object. Now, I'm going to create this as customer reader. That is the method. So what is the purpose of this method? This method is going to act as a item reader and it is going to return flat file reader. Flat file reader is a predefined class which is used to read the data by using item reader concept. Item stream reader concept is available. Got it? That is from item reader. Now, flat file item reader class object I am creating. Okay, let me create that object. Flat file item reader, it has to read the data and represent in the customer object format. New flat file item reader. I will return item reader. Guys, good. I'm trying to create the reader object. My source is CSV. So I want to read the data from the CSV. CSV is called as a flat file. So to read the data from the CSV, I'm using a class called flat file item reader. So I'm creating the object and I'm returning the object. But here I need to tell to this reader, where is that file available? What is our source available? I kept my source under resources folder. I need to tell that, hey, item reader, you take the data from the given path. Item reader dot set resource, that is new file system resource. New file system resource, I will tell the path of the file. The file is available under src main resources, which is customers.csv. Okay, I'm telling the path where my file is available for item reader. Item reader is used to read the data from the CSV. So I'm creating the object for flat file item reader. For the flat file item reader, I'm setting the source here. Okay, for item reader, we can set some name also. Item reader dot set a name. So I'm going to set the name as CSV reader. You can give any name for that. I'm giving the name as CSV reader. You can give any name. That's not mandatory here. I'm giving the name as CSV reader. Whenever I'm reading the CSV, do you want to insert this row also in the table? This header row also we need to insert, or we need to insert only from the data row? Guys, do we need to insert the header row also, or we need to insert only data row? Come on. Header row we need to insert in the table, or we should not insert? We should not insert. So what I need to tell to that? For my item reader, I will tell that you skip the first line and you take from the second line. You skip the first line, that is not the actual data, that is header data. For that, I will tell to my item reader dot set lines to skip. I'm setting lines to skip as 1. What is the meaning of lines to skip? What is the meaning of lines to skip 1? It has to skip one line in the CSV file. That is the first line, because first line is not the data. First line is the header. The data is available from the second row. So that is what I'm telling to my item reader. So this item reader, I want to represent as a bean. For that, I will go for @bean object. I will go for @bean object. See here, I'm creating flat file item reader. I'm giving any name for that customer reader object. It is used to read the CSV data. Flat file item reader object I have created. For that item reader, I'm telling where is my source. My source is available in this location. For that item reader, I'm giving some name. For the item reader, I'm telling that skip first line because that is header data. You read the data from the second line. Then after, I need to tell that each line is belongs to one customer object. Each line is belongs to one customer object. So that's where we need to specify item reader dot set a line mapper. I need to set the line mapper. What is the meaning of line mapper? Line mapper is used to tell that read one line and represent that line as one customer object. That customer object we need to insert as one record in the row. Okay, set line mapper. So for that, I'm going to create line mapper method. I'm calling line mapper method. Guys, observe. So there is no method available with the name called line mapper. Now I need to create that method with this name. That line mapper method is used to take the each line. That line should be converted into one Java object because CSV nothing but comma separated values will be available. For this reader, I'm telling where is the source. That source will be loaded from that location. From that source, skip one line and process the remaining lines. Who will take that line data and convert into object? That's where line mapper comes into picture. So let me create a method line mapper. So line mapper is used to read the lines and give the data in the form of line mapper object. Okay, now let me create a line mapper. For that, there is a predefined class called default line mapper is available in the Spring Batch. Default line mapper is available, that is a customer. Let me take it as line mapper is equal to new default line mapper. I'm taking that line mapper object. Finally, I need to return that line mapper. So this is one method. That method I am passing to this is set line mapper method. So set mapper means it has to call this method. In this method, I am creating line mapper object and I am returning that line mapper object. But where is the logic to represent it? Where is the logic to represent that? So now I need to take the CSV data. CSV nothing but comma separated value. So delimiter is the comma for that. So to process that data, I need to specify delimited line tokenizer. Delimited line tokenizer, going to specify that as line tokenizer is equal to new delimited line tokenizer. That means I'm telling that my data is separated by using delimiter comma. Okay, so line tokenizer dot set delimiter. What is my delimiter? CSV means comma separated value. My delimiter is comma. Okay, line tokenizer dot set strict as false. Okay, guys, what is this set strict method is doing? Public setter for the strict flag. If true, the number of tokens in the line must match the number of tokens defined. If false, the lines with less tokens will be tolerated and paired with empty columns, and lines with more tokens will be simply be truncated. Strict means one column data, if it is not available, you will consider as a null value. Okay, so for every column, data may not be available, so there will be some empty columns also. For that, I'm giving set strict as false value. If the data not available, you will consider as a null value. Okay, then after, what is the data that is available? What is the order of data in that? Line tokenizer dot set names. What is the order of the data in the CSV file? The CSV file, first ID is available, then first name is available, then last name is available. If you see my CSV, ID, first name, last name, email, gender, country, DOB. I copied these things, first name, comma, last name. Then I need to specify email is available. After email, gender is available. After gender, contact number is available. That is the order. In which order the data is available? Contact number. After the contact number, country name is available. Country name is available. After that, DOB is available. DOB is available. So this is the format. The right means I'm taking a line mapper. For the line mapper, I'm telling that delimited token. That means every line will be tokenized with a comma. Don't follow the strict rules because some columns may not have the data. Then ignore that and insert the null value. What is the order of the data? I'm setting as tokenizer.set names. Right. So once I set this, then I need to specify whatever the data that is available, take that data from the line mapper and convert into bean object. Okay. To convert the data into bean object, we are having bean wrapper field set mapper. So take the data from that bean wrapper field set mapper is available. Take the data from that and convert into customer bean object. I'm going to specify field set mapper is equal to new bean wrapper field set mapper. Then what I will specify? Field set mapper dot setup targeted type. What is our targeted type? That is customer dot class. That means once you read the data, you need to store that data into one customer object. Okay. Then I will go for line mapper dot setup line tokenizer. I am having my line tokenizer and I'm specifying line mapper dot set field set mapper. I'm having field set mapper also. Writing this line mapper is very important because my data is available in the CSV file. From that CSV, I need to read the each line. Each line will be available with the comma separated. So take the data from the each line and convert that data into customer object. So that is the meaning of this method. I'm writing customer reader class, which is used to read the data from the CSV, and it will read the data from the CSV. CSV means comma separated value. Each line should be converted into one Java object. For that line mapper I'm using. What this line mapper will do? Line mapper will use a tokenizer. It will tokenize the data by using comma, and it will convert the data into Java object by using bean wrapper field set mapper class. It is used to convert that data into Java object. So for this line mapper, I'm telling what is the tokenizer and what is the field mapper, and I'm returning my line mapper. So with this line mapper is ready. That line mapper I'm setting to reader. So finally, our reader is ready. That is item reader. Flat file reader I'm using, which is called as the item reader, which is used to read the data from the source. Are you guys clear? Are you guys clear with this? Item reader is completed. So what is the purpose of item reader? Item reader is used to read the data. Then create the processor, guys. So let me create one class called customer processor. I'm not going to write any logic, just I will show you. Customer processor. Let me create this class. So this class is going to implement one interface called item processor. Item processor, Spring Batch item processor. I'm going to specify item processor with this customer data. So whenever we are going to specify item processor, there is a method called process method is available. There is a method called process method is available, guys. Customer is available. With that customer, I'm going to write one method called process method. So what will be available in the process method? Whatever the processing logic you want to do, you can do this. Okay. So finally, whatever the processing you do, that processing object you can return. Okay, guys. Now, so customer processor is available. What is the purpose of the customer processor? Customer processor is used to process the data. That means I got the item. So if my logic will be something like this, if item dot get gender, if it is male, then only I want to process the data. Country dot equals to India, then only I will return that item. Then only I will return that item. Otherwise, I will return null value. So that means if a customer belongs to India, then only take that record. Otherwise, return the null value. Like this, if you have any such kind of a processing logic, you can write that. But currently, I'm not doing any processing, guys. I'm leaving it as empty. Whatever the object I'm getting for the processing, I'm not doing any processing for that. I'm returning that object as it is. Okay, we'll talk about this processor. In the processor, you can write the logic. If you don't want to process Indian records, then you can skip them. Like that, whatever the processing you want, you can do that processing on the data. Now let me represent that processor as a bean public customer processor, create processor or customer processor. This is used to represent processor object, customer processor. I'm not doing anything, so return new customer processor. I want to represent this as a bean. For that, I'm using @ bean annotation. Now, if you observe, item reader is available. For that item, after item reader, then I'm going for item processor. So I created one dummy processor. There is no logic. Whatever the logic you want, you can write it. Once it is done, then I need to go and create item writer. So what is the purpose of item writer? Item writer is responsible to write the data to destination. My destination is database. So let me create writer bean. Okay. So let me create the writer bean. To create the writer bean, public, there is a bean called repository item writer, which is used to write the data to database. Repository item writer is available. So that is customer writer. So here, in order to write the data to the database, we need a repository writer. Okay, let me create the object for repository item writer. Repository item writer customer, that is repository writer, is equal to new repository item writer, which is used to write the data to the database by using this repository writer. Okay, let me inject this as a bean. My item writer is available as a bean. But to write the data to the database, we need a repository, right? We created a repository. Let me inject that repository here. Private customer repository. Let me go for customer repo. Go for auto wiring. Okay. Now I need to set this item writer to this repository writer. Repository writer dot set repository. That is my customer repository. Fine. Item writer is used to write the data to the database. So repository writer dot set repository. I'm setting that. Which method to insert the data? Repository writer dot set method name. In the data JPA repository, save method will be available, which is used to insert the data. So we no need to write any method in the JPA repository to insert the data that is already available. That is called save method. For the item writer, I'm telling that you use a repository item writer, and this is my repository to insert the data. In that repository, save is the method which is used to insert the data. Like this, I'm specifying my item writer. So with this, I am done with item reader creation and item processor creation and item writer creation. Are you guys able to understand what I have done as of now? Item reader, I specified that, hey, item reader, you read the data from the CSV and you give it to line mapper. Hey, line mapper, you read the data line by line and you convert that line data into Java object and give it. Then give that data to item processor. It will process the data. Currently, there is no logic in the processor. Whatever the data we will give to item processor, same thing it will return. Then item writer. Item writer is using repository item writer. Repository item writer is using data JPA save method to insert the record. So I'm done with this reader, processor, and writer. Shall I move on, guys? Now I need to create the step and I need to give the step to the job. Job I need to give to the job launcher. I'm done with this reader creation, processor creation, and writer creation. Now I need to create the step. That step I need to configure to job. That job I need to configure to job launcher. Then our application will be ready. Are you able to understand reader, processor, writer creations? For reader, predefined class, plot file reader is available. Processor, I created my own processor, but there is no logic. For writer, predefined repository item writer class is available. For that repository item writer, I'm setting my customer repository. Customer repository is our interface. In that repository, save method I'm telling to use to insert the record. Got my point? Now can I go and create the step? Now? For the step, I need to configure reader, writer, processor. Okay. So let me create the step. To create the step, we need to create step builder factory. Let me inject step builder factory. Private step builder factory from the Spring Batch. I'm going to specify step builder factory. Let me inject it. Let me go for auto void. step builder factory. Now let me create the step now. So let me create the step. To create the step, I configured step builder factory. So let me create the step. Public, it will return step. Step, we need to take batch core step. Step. This one I'm representing as a string bean by using @bean. Now let me create that. Return step builder factory dot get. You can give any name for the step. I'm giving the step 1 dot chunk. I want to process 10 records at a time. Those 10 records are representing input is a customer record for processing. Output is also a customer record for the processing. Chunk of 10 records I want to process in the single shot. Dot get. Then what is the reader to read that data? Let me go for reader. What is the reader? There is a method for the reader, customer reader. What is the processor for that? There is a processor. Customer processor method I'm calling. What is the writer? There is a writer for that. What is the writer? Customer writer is available. Customer writer is available. With this dot build step object. Fine. So like this, I'm creating my step object. So to create the step object, I have taken step builder factory. To create the step object, I have taken step builder factory. So by using that step builder factory, I'm creating the step object. Step builder factory dot get the step. For the step, you can give any name. I'm giving the name as a step 1. Dot customer is the input for the processing and the customer object is the output for the processing. Process chunk of 10. 10 records you process at a time. Reader. So for the step I told you, we need to configure reader, processor, writer for the step. Dot reader, customer reader method I'm calling, which will give flat file item reader. For processor, I'm giving customer processor, which will give the customer processor record. For writer, I'm giving customer writer, which will give repository item writer. Okay. Then dot build. I'm creating the step object and I'm returning that step object. With this, my step is ready. With that step, I configured reader and I configured processor and I configured writer and I'm creating the step object. With this step object, now I need to create the job object. For this step, I need to create the job object. So how to create the job object for this? Public job. Let us create a job. Now, let me represent this job also as a string bean. To create the job, I need job builder factory. To create the job, I need job builder factory. Let me create job builder factory and let me inject it. Private job builder factory. I'm going here and I'm creating job builder factory object. What is the purpose of the job builder factory object? Which is used to invoke the step. Okay, let me inject that job. Let me create the job. Return job builder factory dot return job builder factory. By using that job builder factory, I need to execute my step. Okay, job builder factory dot get. You can give any name for that. I'm giving customer's job. You can give any name for that. Customer's job dot flow. So what is the flow? I have a step. If you have multiple steps, you can configure multiple flows. Dot flow, then dot end, then dot build. So there is only one step available. That means I'm configuring this step. If you have multiple steps, then you can create one more step and you can give step 1 and you can give step 2. But here I have only one step. So that's why I'm configuring step 1. I don't have step 2. Let me remove this. If you have multiple steps, then you can configure multiple steps and you can configure the flow. But I have only one step. After configuring that step, I'm doing end, then build, which will return our job object. So with this, we are able to create step. For the step, we have given all these 3 and we are able to create the job. For the job, we have given the step. For the step, I have given item reader, item processor, item writer. Got it. This batch configuration class is very important, guys. Customer repository, which is using at the writer place. Step builder factory, which is used to build the step object. Job builder factory, which is used to build the job object. Item reader, I'm using this method to read the data. When I'm reading the data, line mapper is important. I'm telling that my lines are delimited with the comma. This is the order. Convert the data into Java object. Then create the processor. This is my customer processor object. Then I have a writer. This is customer writer, which will write the data into database by using my JPA repository with the help of save method. Then I'm creating my step object. For the step object, I'm configuring the chunk. 10 records should be processed. 10 threads should be worked at a time to process the data. Chunk of 10, that means 10 threads will process my data. Dot reader, dot processor, dot writer, dot build. Okay. Then public job. I'm creating the job object. For the job object, I configure the step. For the step, I configure reader, processor, writer. Got it? That is what I have done in the config. So with this, we are good. Now the final step is job launcher. I need to create the job launcher to launch my job. To launch my job, the job launcher I will do in my REST controller. Let me create one REST controller. New class in.ashokid.rest. Let me go for customer REST controller. Customer REST controller. So represent this as a REST controller by using @REST controller. Let me write one method, public void process customer data, or else load CSV to DB. That is my method. @get mapping. I'm specifying /customers. So in this method, I should write the logic to launch my job. So to launch the job, I need a job launcher. So job launcher I'm going to inject here. And by using that job launcher, I will launch that data. I will launch my job. So for this, I'm going to inject job launcher first. Private job launcher. Auto wiring. What this job launcher should do? This job launcher should launch the job. I already customized the job. Let me inject that job object here. Let me go for auto wiring. I'm injecting job launcher and job object. This job launcher is responsible to launch the job. Where is this job? Job is already configured in the config class. What this job will do? This job will launch the step. What this step will do? It will read the data, process the data, write the data. Okay. Now, in order to launch that job, we need to pass some job parameters. I will tell when that job is started. Job parameters I'm going to specify. Job parameters, batch framework predefined class, job params available is equal to new job parameters builder dot add date parameter you can give or long parameter you can give, whatever you want. Let me go for add long. Start at system.current milliseconds I'm going to specify. System.current time millis that I'm going to convert into 2 job parameters. So I'm going to specify when this job is started as a job parameter. Then I need to start the job. I have a job launcher dot run. Whatever the job and whatever the job parameters available, I'm going to run this job. So it is giving one exception. Let me ignore that exception. Job launcher dot run. This is the method. This is my REST controller method. This is my REST controller method. This REST controller method is used to launch the job. Job launcher is available. That job launcher I'm invoking to launch the job. That job is going to invoking the step. That step is going to invoke the reader, processor, and writer. So job launcher I'm launching from my REST controller. I will send the request to my REST controller method. That REST controller method will use job parameters and job object. Job launcher dot run. It is going to launch the job with the job parameters. What is there in the job? In the job, I configured the flow as a step. What is there in the step? In that step, I configured reader, processor, and writer. So finally, when I send the request to my REST controller method, it will launch the job. Job will launch the step. Step will perform the action. That is the requirement. In order to do all these operations, we need to configure one property in the YML file. That is initialize job schema. So here it is going to create several tables in the database. So for that, we need to specify that property. In the YML file, I need to specify Spring Batch JDBC initializes schema. It has to create the required tables for that. Spring dot batch dot JDBC initializes schema always. I will specify. That means what are the tables that are required to launch this job and to execute the job, those tables will be created in the database using this initialize schema. Perfect. Refresh. Let me run my application. Run as boot application. Run as boot application. See this. Application failed. URL not able to determine. Maybe I change it from properties file to YML. Let me do Maven update. Do the force update so that it will reload YML file from our project. Yeah, perfect. Then refresh our application. Good. Run as boot app. Before going to run the boot application, let us check this. Use batch demo database, which I configured in our properties file, batch demo database. Check the show tables. Guys, currently, any tables available in my database are observe and this answer. Any tables available in my database or tables are not available in my database? Guys, currently, tables available in the database or tables are not available in the database? Tables are not available in the database. Now let me run my batch application. You understand what are the classes I created? I created one entity and repository. Then the most important part is batch configuration. Creating reader, creating processor, creating writer, creating step, creating job. Then finally REST controller, which is launching my job. Okay. Refresh my project. Run as boot application. Console. Oh, see here, guys. The job is launched and it inserted the record into customers table. Let us go and check the table. Show tables. Earlier tables are not available. Now you see how many tables are available. Earlier there is no single table, but now what happened? Show tables. What happened now? What happened now? Tables are created or not? Job execution table, job execution context table, job execution parameters table, job execution sequence, job instance, job sequence, step execution context, step execution sequence, finally customers info. Let us go for customers info. Select star from customers info table. Check the data. The data is loaded into the table or not? All the 1000 records are loaded into my table or not? By default, the job launcher launched that job. Before sending the request itself, the job launcher launched that job and all the 1000 records inserted into the table. Now let me do one thing. Truncate this table. Let me truncate the table so that data will be deleted. Truncated. Now I have done table truncation. So what is the meaning of table truncation? Any records available in the table now? Guys, any records available in the table or records are not available in the table? Records are available in the table or not available in the table? Not available. Now my application is already in the running mode. Let me send the request for that endpoint, which is localhost colon 8080/customers. That is the endpoint I have in my REST controller method, which is responsible to launch my job. Okay. Job launcher is available. Job launcher.launch the job. /customers URL is available. Let me go here. 8080/customers. Before launching my job, let us verify. No record available in the customer table. Now let me make a request for the REST endpoint /customers. I send the request. Now you see in the console, the queries are keep on executing, completed. Job parameters completed in 3 seconds. How much time it took to load 1000 records from the CSV file to database table? 3 seconds of time. 3 seconds, 714 milliseconds. Approximately it is taking 3.5 seconds to 4 seconds of time to take 1000 records from the CSV and store into database table. This is one job parameter. Simple job launcher. The flow job is executed, that is a customer job. That step is executed. Step is executed. Step reading the data from the CSV, processing that and writing the data. Go to the table, star from customers info. Now you see the table data is loaded. From where the data is coming to where? Source is a CSV, destination is database. So thousands customer data, it is reading from the CSV and it is storing into database table within 3 seconds of time. That is the power of Spring Batch. So if you want to process bulk of records, then Spring Batch is one of the best solution that is available in the Spring framework. Are we able to insert all the 1000 records into database table? See, 1000 queries are executed. 1000 queries executed to insert 1000 records into database table. At a time, 10 records will insert because I have given the chunk count as a 10. It is checking these are 10 records available in the table or not. Select. See here, at a time 10 queries are executing. First select queries are executing to verify the record is present or not. Then immediately 10 queries are executing. Chunk size I have given as 10. At a time 10 records will be processed. If I give chunk size as 100, 100 records will be inserted at a. In the batch config, in the step I have configured the chunk size as 10. So that's why it is reading 10 records. It is verifying 10 records available in the table or not. If not available, those 10 records are inserted at a time. So that is batch processing in Spring Batch.